Hi guys, this is another episode of the No Beef Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Bobby, aka BOBZ. Today we have another special guest with ourselves. You know how we do it here, the guest introduces themselves, so please take it away.
So I don't have a cool name like you. I'm Cammy Day. I'm the Deputy Leader of the Council and I lead the Labour group in the City Chambers.
Amazing. And just like to say to everyone that obviously I appreciate the time that Cammy has taken to actually come on and speak with me. I was just saying to him off air that I'm very humble and very grateful that, it's a great opportunity to be able to speak to someone like him about racism, discrimination, and obviously about his views on how we tackle it or how we change. So, Cammy, can you just tell us, what you do? And also before that, what is your heritage and your race?
So I'm a white Scottish man. I've lived in Edinburgh since I was born. I went to school out in East Lothian, so I did move out the city for 5-6 years and then back to the city. And this is the place I call home and hope to do for an awful lot longer.
Brilliant. And your role in the council, can you just elaborate a little bit for people who aren't aware of who you are or what you do?
Sure. So I've got two roles. I'm a councillor and I lead the Labour group. So I'm the Labour group leader. Yeah. And we're in a coalition with the SNP to run the council and the administration. And in that role, I'm the deputy leader. So the leader of the council, Adam McVeigh, and I effectively work really closely together and put leadership through the council from the political side and work closely with Andrew Kerr and all his directors and heads of service to, I hope, make the council a better place to work and to deliver services for the city. So yes, it's an interesting and varied job. It's different every day. It can be really, really satisfying when we do really good things, and obviously it can be really difficult when we get things wrong as well. I'm not going to pretend we always get it right. And I think I have a good relationship with most political parties in the chamber, so that helps try to bring people on board for most of the big issues we do. A lot of the work we have to do as a minority is about negotiating and compromising to get the best deal for most people.
Amazing. And it's nice that you said that you have good relationships with other parties. I think that's very healthy. You can disagree to agree, but at the same time, there's a healthy relationship where there is respect. And so should it be, and so it should continue. So I'm going to get right into it. Hopefully I won't be too much heat on yourself. So, racism, discrimination, okay? What's your thoughts on it?
I mean, without going back in history for me, I've worked in the north of the city for a number of years in youth and community work, and I've worked with young people, their families, their adults. And I always remember back I was quite young myself, but around the 80s and 90s when local people in Muirhouse started up the Muirhouse anti-racism campaign. White local people who marched on the street with local black people who were being targeted by small groups of people or gangs at a time when racism, I think, was worse then. And what really, really excited me about it is it was local people saying, we want to stand up and do something about that. Rather than to be the authorities and the politicians, there were local people who stand up and say, people who live in this community, whether they're black, white, or whatever, and whether they're male, female, or gay, lesbian, whatever, they are welcome to be part of this community. And that inspired me. So I've been involved in the trade unions, involved in the Labour Party, involved in encouraging young people to join trade unions, involved in the equality agenda.
Yeah.
I'm a gay man myself, and so I've seen discrimination as well of a different type. But for me, it's kind of simple. I don't have any prejudice about anybody. I don't really. So in terms of racism, I think it's absolutely abhorrent and it should be eradicated.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that's not going to happen overnight, but it's for political leaders like me to be sending the right message about what's acceptable and what's not in our city and in society. And I appreciate that's something that's going to take a long time to resolve and to genuinely eradicate. But the more we have honest and frank discussions with people, the better it's going to be. As I left the city chambers earlier today, we have the Polish flag and the Pride flag flying, because tonight there'll be a rally between the Polish community, with the Polish community, sorry, to say the hatred you're getting in your own country is absolutely shocking, and we stand with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it'll be the same. I mean, it was me that moved the Black Lives Matter motion to the council, saying that this city needs to stand up and recognise that the way black people are treated in some parts of the city and in some areas of the city and employment is unacceptable. And if you just look around the directorate and heads of service in the council, and look around in the council chamber, 60 odd councillors and not one single person who's not white.
Yeah.
So it tells me, whilst I'm entirely against any forms of racism and discrimination, in some way, whether it's discriminating or we're just not proactively doing it, we're not doing enough to get people from a much wider section of the city to be representing the city. You know.
Yeah.
We sorry.
No. Please carry on. If you want to add to that.
I suppose just to finish that, you know, we. In fact, no, I'll leave it for later on, because I think it answers one of the questions later on. Jumping the gun.
I'm glad you said that, because you know, my community that we live in Edinburgh, you know, we are used to having certain treatment, like you talk about the Muirhead treatment, you know, in those areas where there is let's say multicultural, let's say a diverse of communities where they do get treatment from a certain minority. And, you know, it is welcoming and heartwarming that white people are not standing silently. They're not going silent. They're not turning a blind eye. They're acknowledging that, no, this is wrong, and we're with you because you shouldn't be treated like that. And I'm glad you mentioned gender and sexuality, because unfortunately, that's still a problem. In the world, you know, where we are talking about racism, discrimination, and stereotype and stuff. Unfortunately, we live in a world where lesbians, gays, women are still being mistreated, and for me, I don't understand the debate. I'll never understand it. I am aware of the institutional and the systematic racism that we have, but you know, like you said, we're not naive. It's not going to happen overnight. Having conversations like this is how we change it, and obviously bringing awareness. And when I say bringing awareness, I mean, you know, myself, I work for the council. You know, you're the leader of the Labour group. So, like, for someone from my community that just prior to COVID would just go to work, do my job, and so on. Now I'm sitting having a chat with you about racism. You know, so this is how far I'd like to say change can happen, how quick change can happen, and also the conversation is all about bringing people together. You know, my network and the BAME network for the council, we want to be united for a diverse future. You know, and how can we be united for a diverse future if we don't talk to anyone, or if we don't talk to people in positions, senior positions, or let's not just say the senior positions, let's say general people, you know, that work for the council, that have an opinion and stuff. I'm glad you said that. Obviously, yes, you are gay. So, have you ever had any discrimination because of your sexuality, and how did that make you feel?
So probably the answer to that is yes, and I've brushed it off because it was the norm. I'm talking about maybe 10 years ago or more. Mm-hmm. I think in politics now it's accepted. If you were a politician 20 years ago and were effectively anything but a white man or woman, in fact, maybe not even a white woman, it was wrong, or it wasn't seen as you weren't in the establishment because you were different.
Yeah.
So I'm not. So I've been called names and things in the streets in the past, not for some years now, because I think it's, you know, I think as you said, Bobby, the diversity of the city is increasing, and the communities that are in the city are people are becoming more open to it. Let's not pretend there's still people in the city who discriminate on anybody who's just different, and whether that's because of the colour of your skin or your sexuality or things like that, there are still people in the city who just don't accept that. It's normal. Since I raised my emergency motion about the treatment of Polish people in in the region around Krakow, I've had hate mails from people that I've had to send on to the police
Wow.
because they're quite vicious, saying about what they think about me and standing up for gay people in Poland. You know, and I think tomorrow night I'm hosting a Zoom call with the Polish gay community and the trade unions in Edinburgh to have a discussion so they can tell me what they think we should do to change this, you know. And like I said earlier about the Black Lives Matter motion I put up, I clearly stated in my moving that it's not for me to say the council should do this to help the black community. It's for me to say we need to get the black community together and listen to what they tell us, because they know, you know. I give the example of one of my councillor's sons who has experienced a lot more than I have as a young black man. He's been spat at and called names. Now, we need to change that. He wants to be able to walk along the street and not have that. But changing the names of monuments and streets will make no difference to his life. He will still be treated like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm not just swearing this.
Yes, you are. You are.
So that needs to change, you know, and I need to hear from the community about how we change that, Bobby. And speaking to you, you know, and you know, and I was speaking to Michael from Unison's Equality, who's part of the Stride Network, to say, you know, get the staff in the council to come and at least be that starting point to tell us what in the council can we fix, you know, what needs to change in the council. And I personally think, Bobby, and you might tell me that I'm wrong, I don't think the council's a perfect employer for wider equality agendas. I think they're making moves the right way. There's still more to be done, and I think the work that the Stride Network and the BAME Network are now doing will be exactly what we need to see. You know, what policy changes need to happen to allow people that want to work for the council, who might not be that standard middle-aged white man or woman, come and work for us to show a really diverse workforce.
I echo that. I do, because you know, I like I said to Katie the other day, I said, you know, I feel like I'm a statistic because there's not many black people in property, you know, and I'm being honest with you, my community, my friends, majority of my friends are black. I do have white friends. When I tell my black friends, oh yeah, I work for the council, they're like, oh, I never knew they hired black people, because we're not represented. We're not seen in positions. The positions we are seen in is security guards or the cleaners and stuff. But, you know, the council, I'd say, are trying to make moves. And when I say they're trying to make moves, we have the networks that represent these people. And then it's from internal, like you said, that the lead of these networks, or the people that are working for these networks, can encourage their networks, their communities that are working for the council to come forward and say, well, actually, do you know what? I work in this department and this is how I feel. How can you help prevent this? Or how can you help change the scenario? Okay. And that's what I'm trying to do when I think about my network. I want to help change the narrative, change the agenda, change the recruitment, how we recruit. Okay, I say to people, yeah, we don't get jobs because we're black. Okay, people then will say, oh, we don't want the jobs because we're black. But unfortunately, we're not getting the jobs because we're black. So there has to be like a conversation where we make sure we do get the right person for the job, whether it be male, female, whatever ethnic they are, whatever race they are, religion, or sexuality. You know, we need to make sure we are putting on. But the only way to do that is to encourage these different types of people and have conversations like we're doing today. And then, you know, we can plan and then we can act, because without a plan, it's just a wish, isn't it? At the end of the day. Do you know what I'm saying? And do you know what? I'm going to ask you, like, I'm going to throw a curveball. And, you know, I know Michael, Michael Richardson, and like I've spoke to him, you know, and like we had a conversation, and I said to him, I was like, do you know, I don't understand it, you know, like I said to him, if you're not normal, you're not accepted. And then we were talking about, and I said to him, I was like, but Mike, what is normal? You know, not like for me, from the black community, normal is being a white male. Do you know what I'm saying? But you are a white male, Cammy. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But because of your sexuality, you're not accepted. And I think what I'm trying to alarm here is that, like, racism and discrimination doesn't really mean black and white, or white and black, or Asian. So it can be the other way, and it can be against your sexuality, against your gender. So it's this is why I want to do the podcast. I call it No Beef, because I want to raise up every stuff, talk about stuff, use profanity if you wish, and you know, and like let's have it out, because I think I still don't understand it, and maybe it's because I don't know. I try and treat people how I want to be treated, and I still don't understand why you're not accepted. Like, do you know? Like, I'm not saying you should be celebrated. That okay, yeah, he's gay, bro. Right? Okay, you're still Cammy Day. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You're still a human being. So why people feel to it different?
Yeah, I'm sure you don't go walk about introducing yourself. I'm Bobby, and I'm black. You know. You're just Bobby. I don't go about introducing myself and I'm gay, you know, and I don't expect somebody to shake my hand and say, "Oh, and I'm Joe Bloggs and I'm a white straight male." You know, these for me are irrelevant. You know, regardless of what colour you are, or what you do in your own personal life, it's entirely up to you. You know, if you're a decent person, you're a decent person. But and saying that. That's an easy approach to it. That's my kind of bottom line. But we also need to be proactively challenging the people who are just, as you've seen recently with the owners of Maki Ramen being attacked and blamed for COVID. You know, it's just nuts.
I think we have a history has showed me that someone always blames someone. There's always your fault. There's never a solution. There's never okay, let's prevent this by not doing this again, because this is how people feel. There's always like, oh, we've got to blame them, we've got to blame this. And I feel like to myself, like, why if we understand their hatred or their dislike for black people, Asians, gays, lesbians, so on, okay, well, you tell me why you don't like us, okay? And then make me understand. Because then I'd like to think after they hear themselves speak, they realize how ridiculous they sound, you know? And you know what? It's not going to happen with everyone. I get that. But, you know, I mean, 2020, you do hope common sense would prevail, you know? But unfortunately, like you said, there is people that aren't accepting of change. They feel if you're not like them, you're different, you're not one of us, you know. Like yourself, I've been called so many racial names where you can imagine. Where now, sometimes I do think to myself, "Oh, you could have done better. Like I could have thought a better one than that." Do you know? Because you've got to, you know, like it gets to the point where, oh, you know, like what else can you say? You know, do you know what I'm trying to say? So I applaud you in that, and like, you know, I'm with you because like at the end of the day, I mean, your community, my community are fighting for the same thing, aren't we? You know?
Yeah, ultimately. And I think, Bobby, it's an interesting point because I remember when I'll make this a reference in a minute, but I used to do youth work and a guy I knew who was in a wheelchair. And I remember talking to him about the terminology about someone who has a disability. And he said it's one of the barriers that creates a barrier is people being scared to talk to me because I'm in a wheelchair. I'm not stupid, you know, I've just got a disability. But because of that, people didn't know whether to use the words, now, except we don't use them anymore, but things like handicapped, the words that have been the appropriate terminology at some point in history are no longer. But because people are frightened to say the wrong word and offend him, they don't speak to him. And he said to me, I would rather they call me a name that's inappropriate from the past to allow me to talk to them and explain why. And I think it's the same for other communities, whether you're black or gay. People don't want to say the wrong word. And I'll give you an example. My old last housemate's black, and he was in Glasgow at the weekend and was called coloured. You know, and he texts me laughing about it. But for some people, they won't talk to him because, oh, if I say coloured, that might be wrong. And I think he would rather you said coloured and spoke to me than say, oh, I'm not going to talk to that guy because I might say the wrong word and offend them. You'd much rather you offended them to then correct the way you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just somebody's phoning me there.
No worries.
Then just not speak to me at all. And I think that's a really hard one, because it would mean that we accept that some people might call you an inappropriate term, but it's because they haven't been made aware of it, or just unaware or stupid. But maybe need you to correct them, or me, or whoever, to say, actually, that word's offensive and these words are appropriate. Or, by the way, you need to know that my name's Bobby or my name's Cammy, so that's how you refer to me.
Yeah.
But that barrier about just being, and this is maybe controversial, being too PC sometimes creates a barrier for ourselves. Oh, I'm offended by that word you use, so don't talk to me. Actually, call me the wrong name, and then I'll be able to fix that for you. Yeah. I think that's part of the problem as well. People are just frightened to get it wrong.
100%. And do you know what? I'd rather you said what you said, because you're not a bad person. You're not being bad. This is what you've known. Okay. Yeah. So if you did stay coloured, I'd say I've had it with football coaches, white football coaches, just like on the coloured player, and I've turned around and said he's not coloured, he's black, and they've said, "Oh, am I allowed to say black?" And I always say to them, "Well, if I was a police officer and asked you to describe him, you'd feel free to say black." "Oh, but Bobby, I'm not." I was like, "You're not a racist. This is." I'm glad you said what you said, because how do we learn if we're not corrected?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll break it down for people. If you want to learn Spanish, okay, or any language, okay, I'm just saying Spanish, right? You aren't aware of how to speak Spanish, so you try and learn the language. You might pronounce things wrong. You might say things wrong. You might not be able to pronounce it, but you teach yourself and you learn how to do it. So when it is saying, "Oh, he's coloured," he's like, "You, Bobby, he's coloured," I'm like, "No, we don't say that anymore. This is how you say he's black." Okay? Yeah. Feel free, be comfortable. "Oh, I don't see colour." I'm glad you don't see colour, but you should see colour, because do you know what? That's a black gentleman, okay? You don't know his name, ask him his name. Do you know what I mean? So we should, and we shouldn't be. I know we could play devil's advocate, or I'm not going to, but then, me and you have been victims. So, we can only laugh on stuff and correct people, because I've said this before, not every racist is a bad person, Yeah. It's what they've known. It's what's been casual to them and stuff. If we correct them, for future reference, they correct other people,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like a domino effect,
Yeah, that comment made, Bobby, I've heard that so many times, that just, I'm allowed to say black, and thinking, and I get that. It's not a bad person. They're just frightened to say the wrong word to offend somebody. So I won't talk at all. I would rather you said something than just ignore me because I've got a different colour of skin,
No, 100%. So I know you said you've put the motion for the Polish gay, how do I say? Yeah, the Polish gay community, and also obviously you pushed the motion for the BLM. In your position, okay, and if you can answer in your position and as a person, how else could you promote race diversity? And
that's my bedroom.
Yeah, this is your bedroom. Yes, that's my son, Cammy.
Get his room.
He's actually not supposed to be here. How else would you promote diversity and race diversity? If I was to say to you, okay, there's a budget of 100 million, what would you do? How would you promote race diversity?
So again, I don't think it's entirely for me to make that decision, which is why, as part of this Black Lives Matter work, it's about, let's get key people from the black community to come together to say, we have a budget to spend on this. What are the priorities for you to spend on? Now, I'd like to influence that, because I would use that influence. And I made this comment as well in the council, that it should not be for middle-class, middle-aged white men to make these decisions. But whilst we have them as the politicians, they need to make these decisions. But they should be informed by the community that we're discussing it with. I suppose what we can do is, as has been discussed in the motion, let's look at our own house first. Let's look at the council's policies and say, have we got it right? And that's not about me sitting with Katie Miller and Stephen Moore. It's about me sitting with Katie Miller and you and other black people within the workforce and say, right, what's wrong? What is stopping people? I mean, that comment you made earlier, I kind of laughed, but I mean, it's serious that your friends saying, oh, I didn't know the council employed black people. I mean, if people think that, we've got it wrong, you know. And so that for me, there is a campaign, and if I can say these words, and I know they're offensive, but the campaign that used to run a number of years ago that said if you thought this person was a Paki, a Darky, or a Chinky, you're a racist. I thought that was a really good campaign. Really, really good. Now, these words are offensive now, and whether you would use them in the same way, but some campaign like that's a wee more hard-hitting, that asks questions. When you're sitting on the bus and you see that wee poster that makes you think, actually, everybody around me in my office is white and middle-aged, and what will I do about that? So I suppose what I would like to see with our £100 billion is some kind of campaign that supports the black community to reinforce the message, if I'm talking about the council, that the council is an equal employer, but we've got something wrong, and we need to hear from you to say, what is it that's in our recruitment policies that is wrong, that's not encouraging black people, as you said, to not just be the cleaners and the security staff, but to be, as you, I'm sure, will be in the next few years, in Peter Watton's job and running property services. And at all ranks the council, and directors at that level as well, and have a diverse directorship as well. So I would use some of it to absolutely promote campaigns in the city and particularly now during COVID, when we've got a number of the Asian and South Asian people in the city, particularly students, being blamed for COVID.
Yeah.
You know, I would use some of that money to reinforce how open and welcome this city has been for generations, and that will continue. But some money has to be spent on reviewing our internal policies, but that can only be done by speaking to the people who it's impacting on. You and your colleagues in the BAME network, to say, you need to tell us what's wrong, because if I sit and make policy decisions based on what I think, or the head of resources and the head of HR, then they're not going to be informed by the people who were missing in the first place.
Yeah.
So I don't have the magic answer to it, but again, it's my job to make sure we speak to the right people, and that's why this independent review group is going to be set up with key people from the city, from grassroots organisations as well, to hear from the black community what is it that's wrong in the city that we can influence and change. Now, whether that's us that do it in the council, or whether we influence in other parts of the city, the police, the NHS, and just general society, then that's absolutely my job to do some of that.
100%. And you know, I applaud that answer, because it is, you know, I play football and I like football, and there's a saying that goes around and says, football is such a simple game. It's a very basic game. 11 men on each team, 22 men on a field, and they run around and kick a ball. Now, I'm using that analogy because when it comes to dealing with recruitment, or how we change how we are seen to the city of Edinburgh, because we're a diverse city, you're literally just saying, okay, well, we don't have enough black people, we don't have enough Asian people, we don't have enough Southeast Asian people, Polish people, Irish, and so on and so on. Okay, the people that we do have currently in our roster, in our staff, let's speak to them, and just ask them open questions. Say, Bobby, why do you think we don't have a good representation of black people? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because, and so on and so on and so on. Do you know? And then go by that. And do you know, forgive me for saying this. God forgive me for saying this, but COVID has brought a lot of negativities, obviously, because the people that have lost their family members and so on. And, you know, but on the shining light of that, for me in my household, it's actually brought a lot of positivity, in the sense where I'm probably more productive, I'm speaking to more people, I'm having more conversations and stuff. And it's that easy to have that conversation. I'm finding it out, and I get people are busy and so on. So I think the way that we're talking now, I'd like to think you talk to, like you're saying, tomorrow you're holding a Zoom call with the Polish gay community. So, you know, that's how easy it is to talk. So I don't know where it starts, or which individual and stuff, but I mean, like we're both saying, you know, we are saying that we need to speak to someone, or we need to speak to the representation of this community. Because I guarantee you, and I guarantee you the fact that if we do stuff like that, I guarantee you, like, the state of our council will be seen in a completely different light. And I'm talking about, we're not being bamboozled about council tax or the bins and stuff like that. You know, like, they'll actually just say, because I know a few people in the council who want to say something, but they won't, you know? And it's like, because prior to them saying something, they've been told they're problematic and they want to keep their job. And I'm just like, no, like, you have the same right as anyone in your team to speak up and say something. And I know, like, they watched the podcast, they read my article and stuff, but, you know, I always say to people, I'm just one guy, you know. I'm trying to, you know, and that's why in my network, Cammy, I'll let you know, I've got a little team in my network, and I have representation from Asian, Jamaica, France, Scotland. We have mixed race, black, Asian, and white people, you know, on my team, and that's what I'm trying to get. It's bringing people together, you know. So no, you covered that well. And my next question, I suppose, is obviously you've been a victim of turmoil and stuff like that. So when it comes to talking about racism, you know, you seem very comfortable talking about it. Would you say you're comfortable talking about it with me, a black guy, because you can, let me not say understand, okay, what I go through, but you can familiarize yourself with the scenarios of being treated different. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've had in my life discrimination. I accept that,
Yeah.
and so I feel that. I mean, obviously, I've not had anything like it sounds you've had in the past. But do I feel comfortable talking to you? Yeah, I think you've got a really open approach to it. And I think the point you made earlier, Bobby, about the only way that we're going to move on these things, if we do just have frank, open, cards on the table discussions, and I accept that the organisation that I'm one of the leaders of needs to change things, and that you're one of the people, or one of the group of people who can help me change that. So if I want to make the organisation that I lead better and more diverse and equal, then I need to speak to people who are the people who are being discriminated against or disenfranchised in organisations. So, you know, I have no fears whatsoever now. And again, I see this: the community of people that I hang around with are black people, they're Asian people, they're white people, and there's never a question. You know, it's for me, it's like London. You know, I still think Edinburgh's, as much as we say it's a cosmopolitan, mixed, equal society, in comparison to the mixed communities in London, we're nowhere near it. And I think that's part of the issue as well. In some parts of the city, you never see people that are not white. And you're thinking, this is weird, it's like being in another country. Whereas in London, every other person's from another part of the world. So I have no issue with it. And I also see that, you know, I see that, and I'm not pretending I'll always get it right either. I'll slip up and potentially say something that's maybe wrong, and I'll be corrected, and I accept that. I'm not perfect, you know. And when I raised the three horrid words from that campaign in the past, it always makes me nervous to refer to that campaign, because I'm using three horrendous words that I think are really offensive now. But these are still words that are used today, you know. There are still people saying it. So that, for me, that campaign or something like it would be great, because it just reminds you that calling people these names is just unacceptable. And you know, I don't have all the solutions to it. I'll make mistakes as well. But I think, as you said, Robbie, the more politicians like me speak to the communities that are not being fairly represented across the city, the better. If I can get a chance to come online and speak with your wider network, I'd absolutely love that. To hear from a wider group of people as well about, you know, what are we trying to do in the city council, and what can we do to listen to the voices of the BAME community in the council and just in communities. And I mean, when North Edinburgh had a project called the Black Community Development Project, there was always an issue about, it's inappropriate to call it black. Why? they're working to support black communities in North Edinburgh who were needing support. It was doing exactly what it said in the tin, Black Community Development Project. Yeah. Now, sadly, that the people from that organisation moved on and it lost its funding. But and there are a number of other projects in the city who've maybe taken up the workload. But that's another place where I'd spend some money about supporting grassroots community groups, because that's where people are living and working and spending their time. So we need to hear from community projects as well. So I don't think it's just about the council. I think it's touched on the other. There's the police, the NHS, the private sector, but also community projects. And there's not an awful lot of non-white people that are working in the third sector as well. So it's there's no magic wand to fix it. But I think the first step of that is, let's have these open and frank discussions with people and here to say, as you touched on, Bobby, the reason you've not got people, black people from your community working in the council is because of this. Okay, so how do we fix that then? So there, tick a box, it's fixed, and move on and fix the next thing. And again, it's not going to have a mad rush of black people starting to work for the council, but at least that thing you said earlier about black people saying, "Oh, I didn't know they employ people," that will change, because we'll do the recruitment campaign that says you should come and work for us.
And I always say to people, why not? I'm not saying, like I said to Kate, I'm not just saying this because you're here and you're the head star, but I do enjoy my job. I'm very ambitious, and it's a good institution to work for. Definitely. Is it diverse? No, it's not. But let's change it. I'll tell you a story actually about the word black. When I was younger, unfortunately, I actually heard it a few months ago. Actually, family. This girl was saying to her child, "Oh, you're so black," and rubbing mud off her. And she looked at me, and I said to her, she's like, "Oh, Bobby, I'm not being racist." And I was like, I don't understand it, because she's muddy, dirty, she's black. And she was like, "Aye, when I was younger, we'd say dirty was black." And then I just said to her, I was like, "You are aware you can't say stuff like that?" She's like, "No, I'm not racist at all." I was like, "Yeah, but so you're basically saying my skin colour is dirty?" She's like, "No, I'm not." I went, "But you are." And then it took her 5 minutes to realise what I was saying. And then, she looked at me, she said, "I'm so sorry." I was like, "Don't be sorry." I was like you said, that's what you said you were younger. But, you're in my community and we see each other. And I said, for future reference, I don't think you should say that out anymore, because people are going to take massive offence for that. And I just said to her, I was like, "I know you're not a bad person. I speak to you, I say good morning to you and stuff. I get that, but maybe, use a different term." And she kept being apologetic and so on. But that's an example of how change, you listen, you learn, and you acknowledge. And I'm just going to be honest with you and ask you another question. And it's my final question, I promise.
Oh, and you got your doing thing.
I think this is like a 5 to 10 year kind of project. I know there's not a name on it, but I'm not naive. Because we need to remember, it was only, how many few decades ago that women were being treated equally, and it's not that long that the gay community have only just been accepted. So, how long do you think? I think it will probably take 10 years plus, personally, to see a change. And when I say see a change, I'm not saying that every second executive or director is going to be of the BAME community. I'm talking about not society, I mean dialogue, internal changes, developments, and okay, maybe a change of scenery, that there are different faces and stuff, I think 10, 15 years, that's me being honest, because the reason I'm saying that is because to have a plan and have a structure, then you have to put it in place, and there will be obstacles, hiccups that come along the way, because at the same time, as much as we say we want the council to change, okay, and the council are all for changing, the onus is then on the communities to apply, isn't it? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah. So tell me the question again. Sorry.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. So I'm saying, how long do you think it would take to see?
Oh yeah.
change?
Yeah, sorry, I lost track of it. So I would hope it's not as long as that, but I do agree with you that it's not an overnight fix. I think in a matter of months we can develop a plan. I hope by the end of the year or the early start of the next year there should be a coming together of a plan that's been a discussion with the BAME network and the council, that's had this independent review group look at things and come up with a plan that says here are the key things we want to look at across the council city. Now, the implementation of that plan, I think you're right, that will take a few years. I'd like to think that in 5 years, 10 years max, that we've got
Cammy,
a change.
excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to pause it 1 second.
Yes, wants his room back.
Exactly. So yes, so carry on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I genuinely mean this, that I will do everything I can to make sure that the plan of how we change things is done within a matter of months. The next stage of implementing what might be big changes, I think you're right, will take some time. But at very least some of the straightforward things like the change in attitude of the staff team in the council, the change in the way we recruit people, the way we advertise how you get a job in the council, the things like that, I think can happen not overnight, but happen in a matter of weeks and months from then. There's a plan. Some of it can happen now, and it'll be some of the wider structural changes, I think, that will take a bit longer. But I hope not as long as you think. But if we're being serious, as you referred to other minority communities, and it's taken some time to get accepted fully into society. The same thing, if we're being honest about it, will take some time.
Yeah, understand. So I'm going to put the power to yourself now. Do you have anything you'd like to ask me?
So, yeah, a couple of things actually. Do you think, and I won't take long on them though, but I mean, do you think the council is doing, or on the right path at least, to try and make these changes within the organisation and accept that we haven't got it right? I don't think the council's a institutional racist organisation, but accepts it's probably got changes to make. Would that be reasonable?
Yeah, I think my answer to that is that the council are trying to move with the times. When I say the times, I mean they're trying to be more current and relevant and adapt. I think adapt is the key word there, because they are adapting, because like any business, you need to adapt to services and so on. But I think the council are doing really well, especially HR are doing really well by acknowledging. And with the conversations I've had with certain people, I'm not going to lie, it gives me hope, and it's like it makes me smile. And I think that we're going in the right direction. And I think, with the networks, it is a positive, and it can only be even more better. So I'd say, yeah, they are going in a good way, because, I mean, let's figure it. I mean, I've been in the council for 8+ years. I've never thought I'd have a conversation with you about racism, I'd never thought to have wrote an article for the Orb regarding Black Lives Matter. I think we do need to give credit where it's due, and we live in a generation where people are very quick to acknowledge what you haven't done instead of what you have done. So we have to give City of Council some credit, because they are acknowledging. The HR team are trying to move fast, and I suppose it's in respect to certain individuals, that what they're doing, they are trying to acknowledge. And fair play to them, because most of these people are white, Cammy,
Sure.
And as we were saying, to have that conversation, to be white and lead that conversation, it's tough. It can be awkward for some people,
Of course.
And they're doing it. And, I applaud them because they could have been an easier way of being defiant and acknowledging, in inverted commas, but they are doing their part. So yeah.
Okay.
Next question.
My second and last question then, Bobby, for you is just, part of this review is to look at statues and street names and things. Now, I just want to do a view on that, and I make reference again to the young guy I spoke of in part of the city, where his line is, I don't care about statues and street names because they won't change people's attitude to me. I would rather, and I had the same discussion with Jeff Palmer, who said by removing the statue, if you remove the statue or the street name, you're removing the deed, that was a bad deed that happened, and we can properly explain what that person or that thing relates to. Now, we should do that, I absolutely accept that. But, I mean, might not be entirely bright serious, but I don't have, the statues and street names don't concern me as much, because they're not going to change the lives of the BAME community just because we change a street name or we knock down a statue. That guy will still get treated the way he does. You'll still get called the names you talked about unless we start trying to change that.
Yeah.
And I just wondered what your thoughts were on statues, monuments, and that kind of thing, and how, if any, that's supposed to change the lives for the BAME community in Edinburgh.
Well, I'm going to be really honest. I don't give a shit, personally. And because for me, I'm still black, whether the statues are there or not. Where they put up a plaque, you can put up the plaque and say, yeah, here lies so and so slave trade owner. Cool story. Okay, has nothing to do with me, and I think this is my opinion. It has nothing to do with what I want to change, because whether the statue is there or not, okay, he's still going to be acknowledged regardless. Okay, people are still going to talk about him. I don't care. I feel like there's so much more important things to talk about. I personally think it's a distraction. I think the generation we're in right now, it's like any little thing or something like that should be a problem. Personally, I don't care, and I'm speaking for my household, my family, and myself. I don't care about it. Do what you want with it. For me, there's bigger fish to fry. I think, it can be there, it can't be there. I'm still a black man walking the streets, regardless, and my network, we touched on that, Cammy, and, you said that, sort your own household internally first. Now, we're trying to change the council internally, okay? Obviously, you're a politician, so I know people probably talk to you about the statues and stuff. For me, I just think to myself, history is there to be learned from, okay? So if you want to put up a plaque, okay, because there are people that want a plaque to be up there, and I respect that, I get that, and I get why. The sun still comes up, the sun still comes down regardless, and I think it's important. I mean, it's been there for years, so why now? That's the way
So I probably share that type of view, Bobby, so it's helpful to hear. I suppose it's just as we move forward in that area of work, I'd like to be able to say, I'm speaking to people in the black community who are saying that's not a priority for them. There are a lot of priorities, but that's not one of them. Because
I'll conclude on it. Like, the statue's been there for years. I've been in Scotland for 21 years. Okay, that statue's been there longer than I have been in this city. Okay, if so, I'm sure someone could correct me on that. My point is that, why? If you want to remove it, remove it. If you want to label it, co-label it. There are people that are going to celebrate that statue. The people aren't going to celebrate that statue. I think when we start talking about statues, are we then going to talk about landmarks? Are we then going to talk about bridges? Where does it stop? And I just think that no, it's not a concern. And I think we need to cut off distractions like that, because it's not, because the way I see it is this: if I walk past it, I'm like, and I see the plaque, I'm like, oh wow, is that what he was? Oh well, at least I know more about him. Education, you've learned something. Keep it moving. Do you know what I mean? Keep it moving. So yeah, that's my answer. Cammy, I'm just going to say thank you so much for coming on. Really, really interested to have heard you speak, and I'm very intrigued. I've enjoyed it. I am going to personally bug you on other matters, but in the future. I'd love it if you could come and speak to my network, and just like touch base with the guys. That would be brilliant. And yeah, I just want to say, guys, there's no beef between me and Cammy. Cammy, thank you again for coming on. And
thank you, Bobby. It's been my pleasure. You said earlier on it's your pleasure, but it's an honour for me to be able to speak with you and get on your podcast. So thank you for your time. And I genuinely will make an effort to attend the network, and happy to chat with you as we go through this to make sure we're getting it right.
You're a good man. Thank you very much.